Hi, I'm Alexa Fischer, creator of Wishbeads and author of the book Wishwork, and this is the Wishbeads podcast. Today, I have a special guest, someone who I met a few years ago at an amazing event in Los Angeles. We connected. She experienced the Wishbeads visualization, and as you'll hear in today's podcast, it ended up creating her life's work. Wow. And I do think that for anybody hearing her story, anybody's story about Wishbeads for the first time, I hope that it expands your mind and heart to what's possible. Sometimes when we hear people's success story or their story of a big change that they made in their life, it feels like, oh, well, that's good for them. But what about me? But I'm here to tell you, remind you, week after week, post after post, that your wish is like a seed that's been planted inside of you since the moment you were born. And just like real seeds, they take time, attention, energy in order to grow. So Wishbeads, it's not some sort of piece of magic. No, the magic is inside of you. You are the magic. And today, with Josephine's story, you are going to hear her journey of magic, going from someone who was in the fitness and wellness space to really seeing herself as an expert, using her own journey with fertility to help others experiencing their journey with fertility. I don't want to give too many things away, but in a very short period of time, she has learned how to really share her own story, now as a mother of five, but the sort of wild road that she took to become a mother of five and to support people through mindfulness and meditation who are going through that journey as well. I'm really inspired by her, and I'm excited for you to meet her as well. So, without further ado, meet my friend and Wishbeads warrior, Josephine Atluri. Josephine, I am so excited to have you on the Wishbeads podcast and hear your story and actually see your beautiful face yet again, even though we're not in person. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here, Alexa, and to speak to you.
I was saying when we first, connected right now on Zoom, that it was in our previous life, pre-pandemic, that we got to do fun things like come together and go to women's events. And that's originally how we met. Was our dear friend Michelle has an amazing organization called the XX Project. And we were at this beautiful hotel in West Hollywood having dinner and talking about wishing. And I so have appreciated your energy and enthusiasm for Wishbeads ever since that first gathering. And then it wasn't too long ago that you shared an email that was like, I have to tell you, my wish has come true. So would you mind just getting us started by sharing what your journey has been as a way for us to get to know you and your amazing work?
Yeah, it seems like a lifetime ago when you bring us back to our first meeting, which was several years ago, I believe. And so that was my first introduction to your company. And you led us through sort of an introduction of what Wishbeads is all about. And then we were able to do like the journaling prompts there at the dinner and then put our wishes into the bracelet. And at the time I was actually working for a fitness company. I was doing business development for them. And my wish that I wrote in that little and put on the paper was to be able to take overall wellness, this idea of total wellness, mind, body, spirit, and to be able to speak about it. And you even had us visualize, like at a point, I remember we had to actually like see it in our mind. And what I had envisioned at that time was being up on a stage and talking about my version of what wellness meant to me and how I could bring that out to people and change their lives for the better. So that for me, and like have my family as a part of it. So that was a visualization that I had. And that's what I put in the bracelet. And I wore that bracelet I mean, first of all, it's just beautiful. I had the black onyx one, and I just wore it everywhere. I remember one time, like I would never take it off. And one time I think I was almost about to leave this job and the bracelet fell off. And I thought, oh my God.
It's jumping.
Oh my God.
It's jumping.
My wish is not, is not going to come true. And so I did end up leaving that job. I ended up then taking a meditation course, a teacher training course, which is what I was trying to do with that job. And I decided, you know what, I'm already enrolled for this. I'll do this myself. I fell in love with meditation and mindfulness that I decided I need to take this out into the world. And I hadn't really thought about that wish anymore. And now for me, it was just this beautiful piece of like grounding stone and like just that symbolized, leading a life of intention. And so I just went about the next few years and it all just came true. And that's how come I ended up writing that email to you, because I remember I was purchasing some. I loved giving them as gifts, and I don't like just giving just regular gifts. I love having people take a moment to be mindful about their lives and to have it serve a purpose versus just having another thing. So that's why I love to give your bracelets as a gift. And as I was doing that, I thought, I like to have a couple of things just laying around in case I need to give a gift. And so I had a couple, and my sister-in-law came into town, and I thought, oh, let's do this. And let's do this together. We'll put on Instagram. It'll be fun. And I think that's when I wrote you that note, just as a quick thank you to let you know that my wish came true, in that I am now have this opportunity and this platform to talk about women's wellness and parenting wellness and mindfulness in a very different way than I had envisioned, that maybe like many, many years ago when we first met. But it's still this platform where I am speaking on other podcasts such as yours, where I am writing for publications on mindfulness, on women's wellness, and to the point where now I have a book coming out in July for like mindful parenting. And
so great.
And it just,
I'm proud of you.
Yeah, it just like all hit me like, oh my God, my wish came true.
It's, I have to say, I mean that I'm so proud of you, because I often think of wishes like they are seeds that are inside of us. And I almost imagine that when we are born into this world, those seeds are they're there. So what Wishbeads does is that it helps you reconnect to what you already have, the impulses that you have, the love that you have, the talent you have, the joy that you have. And it reminds you to be mindful. It reminds you to give that seed the nutrients, love, attention, so that seed can grow. And just like regular seeds, it takes time to grow. It's not like we can look at a seed in the packet and be like, well, why aren't you growing? Like, we know that in order to enjoy the fruits of a garden, you do the things. And so Wishwork is part of that process. And it does sometimes take time. And sometimes it shows up in ways that we don't imagine, like it's better or different than what we saw. But it was, and sometimes, we need that jolt to say, oh, wait a minute, maybe it is my time to take action, to be brave, to till the soil, to start again. And I'm really proud of you. I mean, the fact that you even have a book coming out, like that is really a tremendous accomplishment. And so bravo to you. And maybe, let's go back to that original visualization. Is there a moment that you saw that maybe that moment when you're speaking, maybe it's your book launch, maybe your family is by your side? I don't know. Do you think that there's a correlation between what you saw and something that you can create for your book launch in July?
Well, I think that it's funny that I had my family there. Not that I wouldn't have my family there, but what I actually am an advocate for, what I write about a lot, and where I've taken my business, is to niche it into the fertility world, because my backstory is, creating my modern day family through adoption, through IVF and gestational surrogacy. So a lot of my work involves talking about my family and carrying that over and sort of empowering other women to be able to use their voice, use their power of their own narrative to, raise up this conversation of what fertility really looks like. And so when I thought about that moment, like I was on that stage, it hit me. I was like, that makes more sense that I had them on there, because they're what spurred me to take this mindfulness approach and meditation approach into a totally different direction that hasn't really been sort of covered before. And it's very new, but it's super exciting to me, and I'm so passionate about it. But when I look back at that visualization, it wasn't like I was talking about that old job. I was just talking about making a difference in other people's lives through their wellness. And that's, that's kind of what that is. But it took that moment of actually pausing and thinking about it. I find, and I talk about this a lot, I find that people, we're always on the go. There's always something to do. And this is what we were talking about before. Like, this whole pandemic has allowed us to slow down, such that we're able to think more just about our lives and our choices and what we want to do. And because we were always on the go before, you never really have that opportunity to say, well, what is it that I really want for myself? What do I envision for myself? So it took that opportunity at that dinner, that amazing dinner with all these fabulous women, for me to just really stop and say, okay, where am I at right now? I know what I'm doing, but what is the end goal, the next 5 years? I think you guided us through, what does it look like in a year and 5 years and all this stuff. And I really hadn't had a moment to do that. And I mean, it was profound, as you can see, because it allowed me to dig deep within. And like you said, we all have those seeds within us. So it allowed me to reconnect and sort of awaken my awareness of what are those seeds within me? What are those visions and inspirations that I have, and where do I want to go with it? So that's what that moment was like for me.
Oh, I love this so much, Josephine. And I love it because you tapped on two things. One is, in your visualization, you saw something specific, which was your family. And that got you thinking a little bit like, well, what does that symbolize for me? Maybe a little piece of that vision opened up a creative space of, wow, I'm not there talking about somebody else's brand or talking about fitness the way that I've traditionally done it in the past, which might feel comfortable. You may have a lot of confidence in that because that's what you've been doing. But this new space, if you're watching yourself, observing yourself, or feeling yourself in that imagined moment, if you get curious enough to be like, well, what am I talking about? Or how am I behaving? And wow, my family is right there. Maybe they're part of my story. Maybe they're part of the story that I'm sharing. So that's that one piece. But I also, and I've had a decade of experience of teaching people about confident communication. And one thing that I've learned by helping people overcome the fear of public speaking, or learning how to step into more of a leadership persona, is flipping the script. Most people are afraid of what people are judging them in the moment. Their energy is focused on them, because it's self-conscious to be either on camera, on stage, or things like that. However, when you understand that you sharing is actually about the people that you're helping, and then you can expand that idea, like your brand, your book is actually not about you. It's about the people that you're helping. Then you get out of your own way, because you're like, oh, actually, I'm done caring what people think about me. I'm done with that story. I'm just like, how can I help? How can I help? Who can I help? Who am I talking to? And as you're talking about this fertility story and helping so many women and families say, look, this can look so many different ways, so many different approaches to becoming a parent, or to what family means. Wow, what an act of selfless giving that is. So beautiful.
Yeah, no, I love how you put that to sort of dissect what your visualizations are. That is so key and so important to see what is it that is lying deep within you that is coming to surface, and to just take those moments to keep revisiting it and having that open up. Because I really, when I went into meditation and mindfulness, I initially went into corporate work, which I still do, because that was my background. I was in consulting, and that was familiar to me, and I thought I could give the best sort of advice and teaching in that environment. But as it sort of progressed, then I just kept coming back to this idea of my family and my story, and how I could use that that training to now help other people who are going through that process. So it was really deep.
Oh, it's so deep.
Yeah.
And then it's like, don't you feel like it's also like coming home to yourself? Where you're like, oh, wait, is that an option for me to just share me? Like, is there something here that it's like, I don't have to pretend to be an expert in this or this and that? Like, I don't know. I think there's a theme with, I want to say women, but I think that's too narrow, where people have this deep kind of question, am I enough? Is it enough? And it's more than enough. Your story is your story for a reason. And if you feel inspired to share that, especially to help others, that's awesome.
That's enough. Yeah, that is enough.
It's more than enough. It's a gift.
Right.
It's really a gift. And I will say this, we didn't talk about this before the interview, but I'm going to throw something out to you because I want to. I've had a lot of people reach out to me about wishes around fertility and wishes around family. And I would love to do a wish circle together. And we can talk about, and have you be a special co-host, and we'll schedule it. By the time this podcast goes live, we will have worked out all the details.
Right.
So we'll do it if that sounds good to you.
Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah. And then I'm also, at the time that this will launch, I haven't told anybody, but now I'm telling you, but by the time this launches, it'll be live. I have developed a beautiful sourced, a very special moonstone Wishbeads bracelet. And moonstone, it's a very elegant, milky opalite looking, not opalite, but like an opaly looking bead that is in alignment with divine femininity. And so it is a powerful, powerful stone. I think it would be a wonderful time to coordinate the debut of this special bracelet with your podcast, with a virtual wish circle, and really have your guidance to help, whether you're beginning a family, you're becoming more mindful with your family, or you are just interested in tapping into that divine femininity. Does that sound like something fun?
Oh my gosh, that sounds so fun. I would love to do that. Yeah. I can't wait to see this bracelet.
It's so pretty. After the podcast, I will send you a picture. I usually am wearing it, but I don't have it on me right now. I don't have it on me. I just lift it up and show you. But let's talk about fertility. Let's talk about some of the your story a little bit more, and then the advice that around wellness, meditation, and the practices that you bring to your community.
Yeah. So we always knew going into our journey that we would have to go straight into IVF in order to grow our family. And that was due to an illness that my husband had. So when we were ready to start, I hear this so often with many of my clients, we always naively think that, we're doing IVF. That just guarantees us a child right away. And that's completely not the case. And so I found myself almost 3 years in, not having had a child, and I switched facilities, and then I became pregnant with twins, only to lose them in the second trimester. And it was at that point that I just, I grieved their loss, but it was back to this idea of a pause, now I was really forced into a pause, because when you're undergoing assisted reproductive therapy, you become really single-minded and single-focused on the end goal. I mean, by definition, it's just inherently a very time-sensitive process because of your age. And so you find yourself just going and going without really thinking about anything else. And it almost consumes you. And so this was my moment to pause after that loss. And that's when I came to terms with the fact that I was tired. I couldn't do it anymore. And that's how we pivoted to international adoption, welcomed home our first son. And that gave me enough time to, at least I thought at the time, to heal and decide to try it one more time, a completely different place. I became pregnant. They threw the kitchen sink at me, so I had to do several other things in order to hold on to the pregnancy, but I did deliver them. And so now I was a mom of 3 kids, and it was fantastic. We had several embryos frozen, and anyone who's gone through fertility treatments knows that when you work so hard to create these embryos, it's hard to let them go and know what to do with them. So we decided we couldn't do it immediately because surrogacy is very cost prohibitive. We had to save up. It ended up being like 5 years, which is why there's this big gap. But we saved up, decided to go the surrogacy route, paired up with this amazing woman who is my angel, and I've given her one of these bracelets. And she carried twin boys for us. And that's how we created, I like to call our modern day family, because we did 3 different routes to become parents. And that's how I have the 5 kiddos. So, through that experience, I at the time did not have the benefit of meditation and mindfulness. Self-care was, back then, the idea of self-care did not even exist. And so aside from like working out or, going out with your friends, that was self-care back then. Right. And so this whole concept of it is quite new, but I knew that I could have approached that situation better, especially now that I have the benefit of being taught mindfulness and meditation through my training. And so I thought, there's a way for women to go through this, and their partners and whoever's going through infertility to be able to go through this journey in a way that still can be nurturing to themselves and doesn't allow you to lose sight of who you are as a person outside of this quest to become a parent, and to deal with all of these issues of, self-image, self-worth that become really intertwined with the whole process. Because, as a woman, it's sort of a given that you are able to produce. And that is one of the things that you do because of the fact that you're a woman. And then when you can't, it just becomes, there's a lot of negative self-talk, just a lot of negativity that gets tied into it. And that's not even that doesn't take into account any loss or anything like that you may have, or miscarriages or anything. That's just on its own. Yeah. And so that's what led me into this path of infusing and guiding people who are trying to conceive to use the strategies of mindfulness, to use the benefits of meditation as they're going along in order to help them manage and navigate the challenges that they face throughout the process.
Oh, it is so needed. It is so needed. And I think we're getting better as a society sharing some of those stories. It was Christy Teigen, right, who was quite candid about her miscarriage. And I think it takes some of the breaking of the silence of what people are going through. And I had a dear friend go through IVF and didn't end up conceiving. But boy, what a hormonal, a physical, besides the emotional part of it, the physical roller coaster ride that she went on with all the hormones and medication. And it was a lot. It was really a lot. And then I, as a friend, I almost didn't feel like I had the capacity to understand really what she was going through. And I could imagine that, your coaching and advice would have been tremendously helpful, and community to, to just be able to support someone, because you've been there, you've been there.
Right.
And in so many different iterations of it as well. I mean, it's just phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. When you are working, like how do you actually work with clients? Do you see, it sounds like you meet with people one-on-one, you actually take on one-on-one, or do you do group coaching as well?
So I do one-on-ones. Right now it's virtual, which actually works wonderfully. I can reach more people. And typically what happens is that I will support them and hold space for them before a big moment. So before they do an IUI, before they do an IVF, before they do an egg retrieval, either right before the procedure or right after, in order to help them sort of balance out all that agitation and the anxiety that they're feeling, so that they can really be present in the moment, but also to help them get back to this calmer state. And so that's typically how I work with people on an individual basis. But I just released a fertility mindfulness course online, so people are able to do that on their own. It has 9 different lessons that include video meditations that they can follow, and explanations, journaling prompts, exercises, and check-ins. And then when you're done, I do have monthly dates that you can sign up for, one where we actually meet on a live Zoom as a group, and I'm able to guide them, like bring everything that they learned together into a live meditation, fertility specific meditation that they do, and answer any questions. So that is a more cost-effective way, and definitely an easier way to be able to work with my fertility mindfulness strategies, because then you can do it at your own pace. So
no, that's beautiful. And you can access it anytime you want to. And so we'll include a link to that so people can check that out as well. And I also am curious about, if you had to give one bit of advice to somebody, let's say you're just meeting them, they're not signed up yet for, a class or a session with you. What is the advice that you would give somebody if they're really in the sort of the throes of it right now? I'm wondering if people listening might have a friend or themselves that are really have gone through that experience or in it right now.
Yeah. One thing that I like that has been on my mind lately is just this idea of self-compassion and empathy and giving oneself grace, because no matter what life situation you're in, I find that we're just so overly critical to ourselves and very harsh. And it doesn't need to be that way. So if we can just take a moment to remember each day, whether that's a planned moment that you have in your calendar, or that you always do right when you wake up or before you go to bed, where you just say an affirmation to yourself, or just speak to yourself in a kind way that, you're doing great. And if things didn't work out today, tomorrow's another day. You can do it again. You can begin again. And just feeding your mind with that language, that positivity, it just creates a new neural pathway for yourself. And it allows your mind to really start to acknowledge that there are these other words that you can say to yourself versus the negative words. And even if you don't believe it, oftentimes people will say, well, what if I don't believe what I'm saying to myself? You just can keep saying little things. And, over time, your mind will start to gravitate towards it and believe it. But you can always start off with something small that is believable. Like, I am able to take a breath today, or I am able to, I'm grateful for this tiny thing, like my coffee. And it just it starts to build upon itself. And that's how you can start to eventually access the bigger ideas, the bigger feelings of self-compassion and empathy. So that would be my advice, to just give yourself grace and empathy. Yeah.
I love that. I love that so much. I'm not a yoga practitioner by nature, but I had the good fortune of attending a retreat with an amazing yoga practitioner named Sarah Wadsworth. And we would be in these poses and, like my hamstrings, like I would be good for yoga because my hamstrings need. But she would always say, "All right, ladies, a face full of grace." Which was an amazing accent, which I'm not going to do right now. But I thought that what you were saying really reminded me of just her sweet little saying. Because, if we're finding kind of moments of resistance or pain or inner critic or whatever that is, it's so easy to kind of get into like an all uptight face, crunch, tense, whatever,
Yeah.
worry lines. And just that reminder to just put on that face of grace. It's just like, let the softness wash over you physically, emotionally, spiritually, just be held in some moment of grace.
Yeah.
And it changes your energy. And I would imagine that you probably know, some of the research around that state of calm actually directly affects your fertility too, right?
Well, so many things. Well, yeah, that state of calm, because when you're in fight or flight, the systems that you don't realize that shut off are your immune system, your reproductive system, your digestive system, which is why often people who have major stress issues that aren't sort of managed will have all these digestive problems that they can't figure out why they suddenly have it, or they'll be more prone to being sick because their immune system is shut down. So when you're in fight or flight state, you're prioritizing survival, and all those other systems aren't necessary when you're trying to survive. But when you're stressed.
So that is such an important point that I just want to highlight that for everybody listening or watching. Thank you, Josephine, because we are telling ourselves a story all the time of a survival story, of a stress story. And our society loves to feed us that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on every single screen that is ever in your face, which is everywhere. And so in a way, we have to be more mindful about what we're ingesting into our bodies. And I mean, even our sight, our sound, our touch, our taste, whatever that is, so that we can find our own balance and let go of that stress. So meditation is a really powerful way. You shared that you discovered it through a course that you took, which is beautiful. And I think meditation is now more readily available to people than ever before, at least in the West. What does your meditation practice look like as you've developed this as a teaching tool and as a life tool?
My personal meditation practice, or how I teach it to people? Well, for myself, I do. I was taught that we have to do bookends of our day. So I do it in the morning, and then I do it again in the evening. And the morning one, it helps me to just set a roadmap for my day, because much like with your beautiful bracelets, when you set an intention, it's in the back of your mind, and it's always sort of guiding you for the rest of that day. So then the one in the evening, when you transition from work back into home life, even throughout the pandemic, you still had to do that. This evening meditation gives you that opportunity to shift and to almost hit the reset button, because you may have been stressed out at work. You may have had all of these things to do, but now you're home, and now you're either engaging with your partner or your family, and it needs a whole different energy and requires you to take that pause, to take that shift. So that evening meditation for me allows me to do that, sort of clears the plate and lets me start anew. And in terms of my meditation teaching style, I, as a mom, a working mom of 5, I am very tuned into the fact that people are busy and that it's hard to fit in just another thing in your life, even though you know the benefits of all these amazing things that you need to do. But fitting in a whole new habit into your life is tricky. So I like to make it as approachable and as accessible as possible. So when I teach mainly beginners, I'm speaking to them about ways that they can incorporate into their life and that allow them to be able to do it easily, and such as telling them, it's okay to do it for 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. If you start off that way, that's fantastic. Yes, studies show that 20 minutes will change the the matter of your brain, of course. But if you can do it for 3 to 5 minutes, you're still doing something beneficial for your health because you're able to move from that state of stress into the state of calm. So things like that. And then teaching strategies like breathing strategies within the actual meditations, because those are tools that people can use both in a meditation and outside of one, whether they're in work, whether they're a parent, whether they're going through infertility. Those are all things that they can use to help them manage and navigate all the challenges that they face and the stress that they're dealing with. And so that's my approach to meditation. I mean, I of course would love to do like chakras and oils and all these different things for myself, but I'm trying to reach a lot more people and have them infuse it into their lives. So this is the best way.
Well, I think it's beautiful. I think it's beautiful. And I also think that it evolves over time. Like one thing that I'm working on incorporating is I also believe in bookending the day with meditation. And I've been a meditation student for almost 20 years with studying under a teacher and integrating it into my life. The morning one comes easily to me because I get up really early and I love that quietness in my house. But I know that there's a very special energy that happens at sunset. Now, here is where I find it so challenging to stop my own motor at sunset to capture that, they call it magic hour. It's like almost like a doorway between worlds. And as you said, it's also a transition from work to, family time or just, personal time. And that magic hour is special. But boy, oh boy, do I feel my own inner resistance to slowing down enough and making space. You're inspiring me to go back to do that. Why? Because then I set my intention for the evening. But boy, oh boy, what happens to me is in the evening, if I wait too long, fatigue sets in. And then it's so tempting to be like, well, I'm just going to read my book that I love, which is kind of a spiritual book, and that kind of count. That's not the same thing. So I'm telling you my own little secrets about my own meditation practice. And I've been a student for 2 decades. So you're inspiring me, Josephine. Thank you. I'm going to go back tonight. Well, actually tonight I have quite a long meditation class. So I'll be meditating plenty tonight.
Oh, awesome.
But to really recommit to that magic hour time, to give myself, make space for myself, that self-care, making space for myself to have that quiet time. And then when the evening comes, let that be a different type of reflection of my day, gratitude, reflection, read a couple of pages of a spiritual book, which I always have by my bed. And my spiritual book can take the form of, right now I'm reading a book about trees, the hidden messages of trees. But for me, that helps me, kind of go to a place where I'm opening up my perspective on the world and on life. And I'm so thrilled that you're bringing your insights your way, and even the focus of the community that you're intending to help, and bringing mindfulness and meditation to them. It's just amazing.
Oh, thanks. Thanks so much. It's been such a journey.
Can you share with us, how do people follow you, find you, get notified about your book launch? Can we talk? Wait, before we get there, talk about your book that's coming out.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. It's releasing July 13th. It's called the Mindful Parenting Journal. And essentially it walks you through different concepts of your parenthood. So starting from how you navigate stress, and then how you care for yourself as a person outside of being a parent, but then also within parenthood. And then slowly from there, it evolves into how you communicate consciously with your children, how you infuse your life with joy, gratitude, and like peace. And within all of that, within each section, you'll find exercises such as breathing strategies or meditations that you can do, as well as a ton of journaling prompts and anecdotes of people that I've worked with before who are parents, some who were able to incorporate mindfulness and some who weren't. And it's just a great guide to help you level up your parenting in a very mindful and thoughtful way.
That is so beautiful. So I think we are going to be launching this podcast the beginning of July, so people can know about your book and support your book launch.
Awesome.
And then maybe at the end of the July, that's when we'll do our virtual wish circle. So people can experience you directly, celebrate the book. We can have you lead us through a meditation and help you bring this wisdom into the world.
I would love that. It would kind of just bring everything full circle, just like the bracelet.
I love it. I absolutely love it. It's so, so, so exciting. So now tell us again, if people listening or watching, whether it's in July or beyond, what is the best way for people to find you?
Yeah, if you go on my website, Atluri.com, you'll find all of sort of the articles that I've written on mindfulness, fertility, parenting. Also, you'll be able to book one-on-one private sessions with me, whether that's for fertility or parenting. You can sign up for that online fertility mindfulness course. You will be able to purchase the book on there. You can also see episodes of the podcast that I host and created called Responding to Life, Talking Health, Fertility, and Parenthood. And then you can also connect with me on Instagram, Josephine Atluri, for daily inspiration and tips on mindfulness that I love to throw out there. And then YouTube, there's Josephine Atluri Meditation, free meditations, video ones that you can follow along.
Amazing. So many ways to connect with you. Beautiful. Well, I'm in awe of all that you've created, and I would call a relatively short time, especially for a mom of 5. So bravo to you. And I just can't wait to see how your work and your movement and your teaching unfolds in time. It's just so exciting. And I'm so honored that we connected and that we are playing together now. It's so fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Alexa. Really, you're the inspiration, sort of the impetus for this whole new journey. I mean, I would not have been able to visualize this without that one special night. So thank you so much.
Oh, wow. That's so meaningful to hear. I'm getting goosebumps. Thank you. Look, we're all in this together, right? We all bring our piece to the puzzle. And when we understand that we're all part of this beautiful garden, feeding off of one another, supporting one another, shedding light on one another, it's just so much better. And I think that, the more of us that just, hold ourselves that way and keep doing what we're doing, more people will do the same. So I am so happy. I'm happy for you. I'm happy for what lies ahead and happy for the lives that you're going to impact. It's really awesome.
Thank you so much, Alexa.
You're welcome. Oh, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I am so honored when I hear stories of people who have taken the time to really go deep with their Wishbeads journey. And in Josephine's case, it is just astonishing to hear, for myself, and I'm hopefully for you too, that she used it as a point of focus, as her inner compass of where she saw herself going in her future, and then took the due diligence and the risks and the energy and persistence and effort to make it happen. So if you are listening to this story, whether you're resonating with a fertility journey or any journey, her story is applicable to basically anybody. I encourage you to have that state of grace, to be your own inner cheerleader so that you stay focused and positive, so that you keep going after your dreams, because they really can come true. I don't know when, but you keep putting on that work, remembering who you are, that seed that's inside of you, and you'd be amazed of what comes to fruition. So thank you for listening. And as you can see in the podcast, we plan all kinds of fun, special experiences with Josephine and her community. She will be joining us as a special a Wish Circle guest at the end of the month. And if you don't know what happens at a virtual Wish Circle, it is where, along with the special guest, I guide you through seeing and feeling and experiencing your wish as if it has already come true. It is the awesome movie of your life when everything feels just right. So if you haven't signed up, it is free. It is on Zoom, and you can find more information at wishbeads.com/wishcircles. Thank you for tuning in. I will see you next time. Keep wishing, friends.